Good day, everyone. Paul Kealey from EkoBuilt Passive House. We're going to show you all the passive features that make this house passive. Let's go check it out. Now, what is a passive house? What makes the house passive? It's a house that only needs to be heated in the extreme cold or cooled in the extreme heat. Now, being in the north, Canadian passive home naturally will have windows where possible facing south. And when we do that, the windows allow enough energy into the house in the wintertime to reduce impact on the heating system. A house only needs to be heated generally when it's below -5 to -10 degrees Celsius. If it's sunny outside, the house will naturally be able to heat itself. Now, it's September, standing in this living room. You can see the shadow on the floor. It's almost midday, so the sun comes partway through the living space. September is not the hottest time of the year. When it is the hottest time of the year, June, July, partway into August, the sun only comes in approximately 1 to 2 feet. And this is essentially why maximizing glass on the south provides an opportunity for the home to stay cooled as much as possible with limited solar gain during the summer months. But alternatively, in the winter, when the sun is at a very low angle, that sun comes right through the building and reduces demand on the heating system. So you might be wondering, how much glass do you specifically need? Approximately 35% of glass is usually a minimum in this southern wall to really reap all the energy savings benefits of a passive home. Another important feature of the passive house is high performance windows and doors. These are triple glazed passive house certified components. The difference between a code triple glazed window is equivalent to approximately an R4.5, and a triple glazed passive window is equivalent to approximately an R12. Vacuum space is in between the glass. So the window is actually separated into 3 parts. There's an interior frame, there's an exterior frame, and then there's a thermal bridge component so that there's no pathways for heat in the wintertime leaving the home or the summertime coming into the home. Did you know that most standard code triple glazed windows, the frames are not insulated? So insulated frames are a big part of the passive window. Thermal bridge free design, vacuum spaces in between the glass, and also low E coatings put on all faces of the glass themselves so that they in turn further reflect the heat energy back into the inside of the home. And all these components working together are all reasons why a heating system in a passive home doesn't necessarily operate every day of the winter, only when it's required. You might have noticed the thick ass walls, super insulated walls. This wall in particular is 20 inches thick. There's R75 insulation in the wall. This house has just been insulated. The cellulose is right here, R75. There's 6 inches of insulation in the inside wall, 14 inches of insulation in the exterior wall. You know, a passive home really is built like a thermos, and a lot of insulation is a big part of keeping the home comfortable. Air tightness, arguably the most important part of a passive home. We say arguably because it's sometimes controversial talking to a conventional home builder, which we'll get into later. But the air barrier, behind this black house wrap, there is a fiberboard, which you can see here, which is the airtight membrane. It's a structural product. It's a rigid product. Rigid products are very easy to seal with tape. This fiberboard also self-seals through all nails and screws. Also very important to know that this fiberboard is open permeable. Open permeable moisture, any potential moisture that's left in the wall or the roof system from construction needs to be allowed to escape. Open permeable characteristic of that airtight membrane, you're protected if you build a passive home because it's a prerequisite for the design. So the controversy is that a house needs to breathe and it can't breathe if it's airtight. And that's simply not true. A passive house is easily able to achieve both air tightness and breathability. You know, much better that the house breathes through a mechanical fresh air machine rather than through a leaky building envelope, because it keeps the home healthy, keeps toxins outside the building, keeps moisture, damaging moisture outside of the building envelope, and creating a highly oxygenated environment, not just breathability, but a healthy indoor environment, easily done with a fresh air machine, which most codes require anyway. So how much insulation goes into the roof system in a passive home? First, look at the space above the windows to the ceiling on the inside of the home. Now look at the space from the window to the top of the underside of the overhang on the outside of the house. That's the entire space of the roof system. In most areas of the northern United States or Canada require approximately an R100 for low energy. And if you move south, anywhere from an R40 to an R80, depending on how close the home is to the equator, will dictate those R values. Now lastly, heat recovery ventilation. How does a passive house breathe? So a passive home breathes, actually any house should breathe this way. You see these pipes up on the wall? Those are supply and exhaust pipes for the fresh air machine. Through the ERV system, you can manage oxygen level, carbon dioxide level, which is your toxin, so get rid of the CO2, bring in as much oxygen as you want, and keep the home in a relatively comfortable humidity range, 40 to 60%. You have the ability to create your own healthy environment. We hope you enjoyed this tour. We hope you learned a lot about Passive House. If you want to learn more, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us for more.